All righty. Then let me tell you about our guests today. We have Tamara and Shannon Stone. They are the Stone sisters from Remax Kelowna in Kelowna, British Columbia, Canada. These gals have a legacy of 40 years where their parents were in the business, so they grew up watching how to do this. I'm curious as to how two sisters work together in a team environment, and we're going to find out from them. But these are gals that they're the number one team in their office. They're the number 3 team in all of Western Canada for Remax, and they're number 29 in the world for Remax. So we're dealing with some real players here who take this business seriously, and we want to talk to them. So let's bring on Tamara and Shannon. Hey, gals, thank you so much for being with us today. We're excited. We know that this is going to be a great session. So I'm just going to start right off and cut to the chase here. My biggest question is, I'm trying to imagine being in business with, I have two brothers. One has since passed, but I'm trying to imagine being in business with my brothers. And I'm not sure that would work out well. We love each other, and we care for each other, but it could be a problem. Do you guys ever have a problem, or is it like going to Disney World all the time?
No, we don't. It's interesting. When we got into the business, and Tamara was licensed before me, and she was always asking me, you should get your license. You should join me. You should join me. And finally, when she stopped asking me, I decided, I think I'm going to get into the business. And we didn't know that we would work so well together. So the idea when I was getting my license was, she would help and train me as my dad had done for Tamara. But Tamara had run her own business separate from our parents when she got in. And so the idea was I would do the same. Tamara would help and train me for 6 months, and then I would do my own thing, and we'd just both be in the business. And it worked so well for those 6 months. That's when we formed Stone Sisters and haven't looked back. And honestly, I could say maybe you're different, but we haven't had any issues at all.
No. And we've worked together for 20 years.
Yeah.
And, there are times I know, she could annoy me or I can annoy her. All she has to do is raise her eyebrow a little bit and I'm in trouble. We don't have words. We don't fight. We're really lucky.
Yeah. We have that mutual respect for each other, I think. And at the end of the day, our sister relationship is most important. So that always comes first.
So what I heard you say was you were able to discover one of her tells.
Yeah.
Yes. Good for you for catching
that.
Yeah. Doug?
So, yes, tells are quite important when you're dealing with your family to be able to know what that look means. It could mean that it's okay, let's have some fun, or it's like, we better not go any further down that trail. So I know that very well with my sisters, and I can appreciate your situation. So the question I have for you today is, if you had to start over today in the business 20 some years ago, what would you do differently today?
Would we do anything differently?
We probably would have hired support staff and realtors sooner than we did. There was a time in the business where we were running off our feet. We weren't very organized, I would say, and we were just running. So we didn't take the time to really figure out our systems and what we needed. And, it wasn't until we were able to slow down a bit and then hire. So I think we should have hired sooner and grown the business sooner than we did.
By the same token, I think you need to have momentum in the business and be really busy before you can commit to paying, salaries for staff or giving away business and hiring agents. So I think getting to that sort of breaking point almost is kind of a critical step so that you are able to see that, acknowledge that you need some help.
So when we mention that there's a profile that we've been able to discover with regards to successful team leaders, did you learn how to be a leader as you went, or did either of you have experience prior to taking on this role?
We learned as we went. I mean, this is really the only career I've had. This is year 30 for me. And I learned as I went and read a ton of books.
Yeah, and I read a ton of books too. I did work in management for a few different positions before, but again, I've been doing this now for 20 years. But I did manage a hotel, I managed a restaurant. So a few of those skills, but those were early years. So as Tamara said, read a lot of books. We have mentors, we've had coaches, and that's really sort of helped us along the way too.
Okay, thank you.
So that was very interesting how that led right into my question. Who is it that you actually have as a mentor or that you aspire to today in the real estate business? And who have you learned the most from? So kind of a 1, 2, 3 step there in that question.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
We've been coached with Ken Goodfellow, so Goodfellow Coaching, and still coached with him now. He's been instrumental, I think, in pushing our growth and pushing our boundaries. It's easy to get comfortable and think, yeah, this is pretty good. And that's sort of, a few years ago, that's where we were at, where we were thinking, this is good. We're happy and good work-life balance. And, it took him sort of saying, hey, you could do more. What about that more? And sort of pushing us and encouraging us. So I would say he was really instrumental in us growing our group.
He helped us. I mean, as he started to work with us about, when would it have been? Later than that, 2018.
Yeah.
And he said, girls, he said, I think maybe you don't realize you have huge potential to be a big company, big, recognized brand. And he said, you're a little bit like a mom and pop corner grocery store. And he said, I want you to be Save On More, Save On Foods. And we were like, well, we're really comfortable being, the little mom and pop shop. And it was, sort of the confidence or believing that we could grow and giving up some of the control that goes with that as you become, I'm not saying we're Save On More, but we'd like to be.
To add on to that one more step, as far as then, if you don't mind, how much did your production change when you made that final decision and now you have went from the mom pa to your Save On store today? How much did the production actually change? Because a lot of times people don't understand how much you can change, and therefore this is an important point.
Yeah, it more than doubled, tripled, quadrupled. Yeah. It's a mind shift, and I think we were in our own way, really, and we just needed someone to really show us that. And once we changed how we looked at things, there were no barriers. There are no barriers. We're continuing looking at how we can grow. How do we become more efficient? What procedures do we need to have in place to be more efficient to continue to grow? There's no looking back, and we're in this for the long haul. It's exciting, and every day is still exciting, but we're constantly looking at the best ways to do things and how to change. We don't stay still.
A rolling stone gathers no moss.
So as we went through the materials today, was there any one thing that, as you were listening, you said, that's important?
It's all important. I think you brought up some great points, and I think every step is important. I think it starts with sort of a plan, a plan and a path, and seeing your way there, and then putting the steps into place to get there.
And I think mentioning that you getting in your own way and being in your way, because you mentioned that, and I think that's something is you have to get out of your way. To grow and to be able to let other people take on. I mean, we can't be good at everything. It's just like when you go to buy a car. You go and you talk to the salesperson, and then you talk to the finance person, but those same people aren't fixing your vehicle or changing your tires or putting gas in the vehicle. So everybody has a different skill set. And I think it's important to ensure that, what my skill set is different than Tamara's, and it's different than everybody else in our group. But everybody is in their wheelhouse and doing the best that they can do in that position. So that you can grow and take on more. But you got to let go to do that too.
Letting go isn't always easy, but it's
not.
It's imperative.
Yeah.
So as a real estate agent, I had the privilege of actually being a real estate agent in Kelowna at the same time when you ladies started 20 years ago. And so it's been quite a nice journey to watch you grow and continue to go to this higher and higher and higher level that you continue to do. And there is that one other person that is the rock star in your area. And I am so excited to watch you continue to pass that person and continue to do better and better and better. And we don't need to say the name. We know who we're talking about. And so it's very cool to watch you ladies continue to just get better and better and better to do as you're doing, because you didn't have that in your minds. I know that in 2005, that you could be where you're at today to where that person was and is. Because I know when I came there in 2005, that vision of where that person is was a long ways up the ladder compared to where you're at today. And so I admire you highly for taking that leap of faith and continue to go to that next level. Now, the question that I would have for you to do with that is what's your challenge that you see now to take you to a level that nobody else can catch you?
It's a great question. And I think,
it is a great question. And, as you're, as you become more successful, it's fun chasing people. It's not as fun being chased. And, and I think the first step is understanding that we have a target on our back. We hear it, you go into listing presentations or what have you. And it used to be, we were the one trying to catch up to those others. And now we do know that we've got others, sort of trying to catch up to us. So for my 2 bits, I think I would say we can't be complacent. And even though we're at a great spot in 29 in the world for Remax and having some incredible numbers, we can't stop learning, growing, improving, modifying, adapting, changing. And I don't, we don't operate out of scarcity or, that mindset of, worrying about somebody taking it from us. We really try and just, look at how we can be our best and offer an incredible level of service, and then the business
will come. I think if you're doing your job. And I think too, our industry is changing and there's lots of different things in the industry, AI, all these different avenues that are coming that will change how we do our daily life for, all industries, not just real estate. And I think looking at those as an opportunity, which is something we've always been really good at doing, I feel, is, COVID happened, real estate shut down. We couldn't sell anything. And so we quickly pivoted and looked at how do we market in this kind of market? And then we went running with that. And instead of running away from the situation, we faced it head on. And I think that will serve us well in continuing to grow. And, yes, we look at our competitors as, okay, we want to get past them, but really we just want to grow for us. We have our goals, which, will surpass those around us. But, it's really mainly just for us. And we do have fun doing what we do. So we're lucky. It's not, we enjoy it.
So I have a 2-part question for you. Number 1, how many people do you have on your team? And number 2, what are the 2? Do you guys have different roles on the team, or do you have the same role? What are your roles as individuals?
I'll answer the first one. We'll let Shannon take care of the second. We have Shannon and I plus 9 licensed agents and 4 staff members.
And then as far as roles, so I'm more involved in the management of, the support staff and looking at those roles and everybody staying in their swim lanes, because I think that's really important. And then we're both involved with the coaching of the agents. Tamara's really good and involved in the customer service. So talking to clients and phoning clients and the opportunities that making sure that we're meeting their needs and giving them exceptional service.
So when you look at the coaching and whatnot that you're doing for your team members now today, it's so important for other teams to be able to see and understand what you're doing to be able to get them to that next level. Because if they get to the next level, so do you. So on a day-to-day basis, what would you feel is your key, maybe 1 or 2 or 3 points that you're trying, Tamara, to continuously emphasize into these people? We got to do this. We got to do this. We got to do this. Maybe give us a little bit of a guideline on that.
Oh, I think it, and Shannon does this extraordinarily well as well. I really think it's, and it sounds corny and it's easy to say, but it's actually putting your customer first, putting yourself in their shoes. Selling a home is super stressful. It's, it's terrible. It's good for us as realtors to go through it, because you realize just how stressful it is. And we have something that we talk about around the office. That's our goal, is that our sellers don't phone us. And it sounds really funny. And you look at, what do you mean? But what we don't want to have happen, and we've learned this from experience, is we don't want our seller, we don't want 2 weeks, 2 months to go by. We haven't talked to them. We start avoiding them because nothing's happened. We don't know what to say. And then they phone and they're mad. So it's being offensive regarding defensive. And so I think the number one thing, we talk about language and how you phrase things and letting people know you care and that you're there and you haven't forgotten. Even if you have 10 listings, some of our agents have got 19 listings right now. And yet every person, they don't care how busy we are. They don't care how many other houses you've got. They don't care if you've just had a baby or you're going on vacation. They don't care about any of that. They care about them and getting their house sold. And I think it's, we talk a lot with the agents about just being proactive and
communication.
It's number one thing.
Yeah. And set standards or their daily non-negotiables that they have to do, whether that's, you have to make a lot of the times it's certain phone calls, and agents, each one is a little bit different. But what we've been really talking to them about this year is what are your daily tasks that you have to do? Because it's hard when you're in the business for yourself to some degree of you wake up, you don't have anything you have to do that day. So what do you do? And so we have set, here's suggestions. These are your daily negotiables to get you to your goals.
So, and getting comfortable with being uncomfortable, having those scary conversations. We had a meeting yesterday with an agent who's looking to join a group. We're not a team or a sub-brokerage in BC with the rules, but really looking, and this agent said, I've lost a number of listings to you guys. And he said, and some of them, I didn't have that skill set to get them down to the price they needed to be at. And he said, you took it over, you were 200,000 less and you sold it. And so it's, we spend a lot of time, it's a funny industry because we're all competitive by nature. You want to win, you want to get that listing. We're in competition in pretty much every listing presentation because, they could be planning on listing with their best friend, but let's get the Stone sisters in and see what they say. So we know that, we acknowledge that, and then we go in thinking, okay, how can we win this business? And yet not just get it at any price and it doesn't sell and we look unprofessional, but be realistic and empathetic and get it done.
So, when you think about it from that perspective, it makes perfect sense. So now the question becomes for me, from your perspective, you're a team inside of an office. What do you see as the difference between having a team and actually owning the company?
Well, we are a sub-brokerage, so we're actually not a team. And that's something with the rules in BC, it's good to clarify. So we are not a team. The team is Tamara and I. We, as far as the real estate board, we are a team, but all of our agents that work with us aren't team members. They are agents, just like at a head RE/MAX office. We are RE/MAX Kelowna Stone Sisters, and they are agents at our brokerage. And so, it's different in the sense that, how we switched things is we used to be not in competition, but we would be taking a lot of the listings and that sort of thing alongside our agents. And now we partner with one of the agents there with that listing. So Tamara or I will go on that listing appointment, help on the pricing and that sort of thing, but we're partnered with one of the agents there. So we're really coaching day to day.
And then a value proposition we have as a group, rather than the word team, but, for some of your audience, if they're looking at forming a team, I think, a big benefit we have is that we're able to actually do what we're good at, communicate with people, help people sell, help people buy. And we don't have to, wear 20 hats and do social media ads and design floor plans and,
measure a house.
Put signs up and all of that. We have departments. It's very much a machine. It's very much almost a conveyor belt of, we and the lead agent are holding the seller or buyer's hands to help them through this. But behind the scenes, all of these pieces are getting dealt with and done. So a seller, if they call, they're not calling because they don't know what's going on, because they are informed constantly of all the sort of moving pieces behind the scene. And I don't know how an individual agent, honestly, I don't know how an individual could compete with that when you start doing any volume of business.
So a question as far as volume goes, how many transactions would you guys do as a team? And you don't have to.
Our office, 250 to 300 a year.
Yeah. Thank you. And I want to bring that up because for people that are thinking of what can we do, where can we go, and to what level is it available. That's only not to be nosy to what you're doing, but just so people can see to hit a home run, right? To hit a home run, this is where I could go in the Remax system hypothetically and in the Kelowna system hypothetically. Because
it's funny when you set your goals and your targets and you look at it, when we first hired Ken Goodfellow and looked and said, okay, wow, we'd be thrilled if we could do 100 and if we could do 200 ends, and our price point's higher so that, that helps. But we're in a mastermind group. We've got 2 mastermind groups that we network with and share ideas with. Some of them are very large teams, 60, 70 people, and they're doing 1,000. Well, one of them is doing 3,000 unit sales a year. Big team out of the United States. So you look and go, well, 250, 300. I guess you're right. I guess we could do 500 because she's doing 3,000.
Yeah. There is no limit. You just have to make sure you have the foundation, right?
Yeah.
So I remember having my company in Southern California, and at the time we were the number 3 office in the world for Century 21. And so I was on a panel with the number 1 and number 2 company owners at a convention. And I learned listening to the number 2 guy that he had over 100 salespeople in his office. And I'd never met anybody that had 100 salespeople at that time. Now we're going back a ways. But all of a sudden, it gave me a new challenge for the next year because I believe at that time I had 55 agents. And the next year, I had over 100 agents, and I was the number 2 office. So, when you look at 2025, what do you consider your biggest challenge for this year?
As far as growth, you mean? Like what's our goal for growth or?
Well, I mean, as we've all gone through the pandemic. We've seen the market do incredible flip-flops and somersaults and, everything you could imagine. And now here we are in 2025. And, even though we're in 2 different countries, we're still doing the same business and we do so many things exactly the same way. But even politically right now, there could be some changes in the way that you do business and the way that we do business in this country. So when you look ahead, what are the things that you're kind of thinking, okay, if it goes this way, I'm going to do this. If it goes this way, I'm going to do that. Or do you not even give that consideration until it happens?
We were talking about that this morning.
We look at everything we're pretty optimistic. And I think probably all of us are by, being in real estate, you tend to be. And I think we don't look at things as a challenge. Like it's not really a word, one challenge we have right now is actually hiring. So that would be a challenge that we have is finding the right people to join our brokerage and making sure it's a good fit. We're really aware of our culture. And so it's making sure that somebody is a good fit in that and finding that. So that would be a challenge that we have. Everything else, I think, is an opportunity because it just means we have to change maybe how we market, which we will do, change how we communicate, which we will do. So we're pretty, able to think on our feet and change quickly. That is something we did learn in COVID of changing quickly, and we can. And so we can pivot kind of on the fly if we need to, if that makes sense.
And I think the challenges, you look at the overall economy, you look at interest rate fluctuations, you look at climbing levels of inventory, all of those different factors that are, of course will have an impact in the market. And then at the end of it all, people still need to buy, people still need to sell. We need to help them, be informed and help them really understand where things are at and how to stand out in order to achieve the result they want, regardless of what's going on with tariffs or taxes or interest rates or governments.
Yeah, the message might change, but it still is, as Tamara said, people need to buy and sell, but the message or how we communicate might change.
So I have one last question of you, and then Doug will have a last question. So, Tamara, if you were to say, my sister Shannon, her greatest strength and gift is, what would you say that is?
Oh, I think making everybody feel heard, valued, important. Shannon's really, really good at recognizing how hard it is for, where I'm thinking of here is with our staff. She's incredible with the staff and the agents in helping them perform their best because she believes in them. And, I have a tendency to be, tough love. One of our realtors always says, because I come down on him pretty hard. And then I often the next day go, oh, I might have been a bit tough on you. He's like, Tamara, you're not running a daycare. You're running a real estate business. I get it. But he's probably a little bit scared of me. Shannon gets far better results because they're not scared of her. They know she has their back. So as I grow and evolve, I'm trying to be more like my little sister.
That's very nice. Thank you.
So Shannon, what are Tamara's greatest gifts or strengths?
I wrote it down for her, so let me give it to her so she can read it. That's her biggest strength.
Tamara's is working a room. If you're ever, have the luxury of being in a conference or in the same room as Tamara, she can work a room and make everybody feel special, like I've never seen. So it's amazing to sit back, go to a conference and unleash her into the room. We'll go to a conference sometimes and I'm like, okay, let's do a competition. We have to talk to 5 people and have good conversations and really connect with them. And she's like, okay, let's do it. Because she's a little competitive. So we use that. And she'll come back and she's like, okay, so I talked to 20 and she'll know all these things. I'm like, 20? Okay, like I got my 5 that I said I would do. And that was a struggle. And she's talked to 20. She knows their kids' names, they're this, they're that. And she's really connected with all of them. I've never seen anything like it. So it's a great skill.
Oh, that's nice.
So my question has to your heritage. You had the privilege of coming into the real estate business through your family. Your dad had the business. Was it mom and dad together or just your dad? And so what was that like to make that transition?
It was, we learned an incredible skill set from our parents. From the time we were young, Dad got his real estate license the year Shannon was born. And so from a young age, we knew how to answer the phone, how to take a message, how to, we understood the grievances of the issue and what people were going through. When I got my real estate license, Mom and Dad didn't want me to do it. They thought I was too young, wanted me to go finish my degree, really didn't want me riding their coattails. And so Dad said, Shannon talked about earlier, Dad said, okay, well, because my dad had his business, Mom had hers, and then I was coming in and they said, we'll train you. We'll teach you everything we know, and then you're on your own. And I didn't think they meant it, to be honest. I thought that I would show that I got this enthusiasm and this energy, and, we became Stone team, and I'm like, this is going to be great. And for 6 months, I went on every appointment that Mom or Dad did. They never went on appointments together, but I learned and gathered info, and 6 months and 1 day, I, showed up at Mom and Dad's house. I'm like, okay, what are we doing today? And Dad's like, I have no idea. 6 month time is up and off you go. Go and do this. And to this day, we have 10,000 names on our database.
Yeah.
We have one from Dad. Never gave us his database. Just didn't. They were different. He was doing his thing and I was doing mine. So we learned, you can tell a great story of your math grade.
Yeah, we learned great skill set. So it used to be when we were kids, like in high school, we would get our report cards and all the teachers would cringe and say, oh, the Stone girls, they're going to be coming to us. And we would, because we'd go home with our report card. And I remember this one time coming home with my report card, my dad's looking going, oh, see, Shannon, that's not quite good enough. And I'm like, well, what do I do? It's the mark. And he's like, no, you go back and you talk to your teacher, you negotiate with them, get a better grade. And I'm like, it's math, Dad. It's pretty black and white. Like I can't just go ask for a better grade. And he's like, yeah, you can go negotiate. So we did get known at the school for, oh, here come the girls. They're going to be asking for better grades and negotiating. And that math teacher, he did give me a better grade. I did go through
always.
I think they just felt bad. So
you had to prove your point, present the facts, and gently argue why.
Mm-hmm. But we ended up that teacher phoned us years ago and had us work with him and list his house. And he said, I had to list with you guys because I know you are really good at negotiating. So I had to hire you. So yeah, we did learn a great skill set from our parents.
Oh yeah.
Good for you guys. All right, let's go to the open mic.
1, 2, 3.
Good morning. So one of the questions in the chat is, what are the best growth stages? For example, do you hire a buying agent, then a listing agent? How do you grow your team?
I don't think the consumer wants to work with a buying agent. The sense we have, you see it, but I feel like that's sort of shifting. And I think when a customer, a seller, if they don't have an expensive home or what have you, or they're not buying at a high price, they might be okay with it. But we don't use the word, we don't have buying agents or selling agents. We call everybody a selling partner. We have agents who are stronger with listings. We have agents who are really good with buyers. But, for me anyway, let's hear what Shannon says, but I think step one is hire an administrator. If you, tally everything for 2 weeks, every single thing you do at the end of a day, write it all down, take a look at that and go, okay, half of those things are paperwork or things I don't need to be doing. And it's, when you bring a selling partner on board, is when you can't keep up, when you're dropping balls and losing business. Those are my thoughts.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree with all of that.
And what do you feel gives you the edge to get the listings that you compete for? Anything other than your size and volume?
I think people know we care. We do have our agents often. When we go through an evaluation, they just say, just the other day, and one of our agents said, you just know what to say. And I think we're very mindful of being a little bit of a chameleon to some degree and meeting our clients where they're at. And I was talking to one of the agents the other day as, when you're first meeting somebody, the one thing that we have is we can be professional. All of us can all be professional. We might be funny people. We might have a different skill set, but the first thing that we have to be is professional. Then we can add the humor or that other, the other element of our personalities to connect with people. One thing that I think we're really good at as well is, as I said, being that chameleon, but connecting. Whenever we're walking through a house, we walk in there as though we're on an interview. And I think that's important to have that mindset. Or when you're meeting with a buyer, you're being interviewed. And it's looking for ways to connect. For example, I went to a property last week with one of our agents and walked through the house. And the client was a bit nervous having us there. I could just tell from her body language, she's a bit more of a quiet person. So we subdued ourselves and became a bit more like her. If I was super outgoing, as often I can be, it probably would have set the tone off for her. So we met her kind of where she was. Walking through her house, we went into one of the bedrooms, which was loaded, and I mean loaded with, hopefully she doesn't hear this, but it was loaded with Costco stuff. And she had tons of, different things from Costco. Obviously, she had just done a big shop, but she's like, oh, I'm sorry. And you could tell she was really embarrassed. And I walked into the room and I'm like, oh, it's so nice to see that someone else does the same thing that I do. Yeah. And instantly she's like, oh, you get me. You're like me. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a really important thing is the brand, the marketing, and all of that. We have the numbers to back up that we believe in. We are the best for the job. But I think the best thing is making sure that you connect with people so they're comfortable.
Mm-hmm. And being enthusiastic is just one point I'm going to add. I think our industry has actually been hurt with all these real estate shows that are out there, and whether selling sunset or whatever it is, where we're all too cool for school, and walking through rather reserved or what have you. We have a lot of people that believe we like them and we like their home. I think showing enthusiasm and actually believing that you're going to be able to sell their property. We hear that all the time, that because we're often, people are having at least 3, 4, 5 of us in, and we, not to be arrogant, but we don't lose many of them. And often they'll say, but you believed in it. Like I could tell you like the house. I could tell you believe you can sell this. And on the real estate shows, you don't really see a lot of that. And I don't mean going, wow, neat, this, insincere, with sincerity, as Shannon's saying, find something that you connect with them on, and, pointing out something about their home that, they are aware of and they're very proud of. And when you can find that and see what's different, I think it goes a long ways.
Okay. Another question is, do you go to the listing presentations together?
Never. Yeah. We haven't gone to an appointment together. I mean, right in the beginning in 2005, we did for a year or two.
Mm-hmm.
But even now, and we have some developers we work with, and some very, very high net worth people. We don't like to go together because then they always want us together. So we, as a rule, for listing presentations, we always take a partner. So one of our agents is the first name on the listing, and they're the primary person doing the business, and either Shannon or I are there sort of supporting and putting a face to the name, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And the last question in the chat is, you mentioned you have 4 staff members. What are their roles?
Yeah, so we have an office manager that oversees everything. She's also the liaison for the paperwork, so making sure that all the paperwork is done correctly and entered properly. We have a listing coordinator, so she assists just on the listing side of things. She's kind of a filler role. So she sort of assists the office manager with some of the listing paperwork that's needed, and then assists our listing coordinator or our listing assistant as well. So a listing assistant is the one that goes on the listings, meets the photographer there. She does the write-ups. So we have those 3 that are in office. And then we have one role, but 2 girls share it. So we consider it just one role that is not local. They work overseas, and they are the ones who are setting up our showings and getting our feedback and communicating with the pros with what the feedback was. And they run some report and that sort of thing.
So I have a question to do with exactly that, as far as the people that you have hired. And I talk to people about this all the time that want to get to the level that you guys are at. That if you compare yourselves to a law firm, a very high-end law firm that has many transactions going on at the same time, they have that one key person that they have hired that is the person that coordinates and looks after all of that. And that person is essential to that lawyer if you think of it under that umbrella, which is the same for you guys. Now, in a law firm, from my history going back to the number of years that I've been involved with the law people, they're paying them $60,000, $70,000, $80,000, $90,000 a year for that particular position. In the real estate industry today, because you're connected with many top teams, what is an approximate ballpark that person should make for these people to look forward to, that they have to have that money to be able to pay that person?
And I'm sure every area is different, because when we talk to agents across Canada with some of these peer groups that we're part of, the compensation structures are all different. So I don't know that there's a set rhyme or reason necessarily. Our main girl, so she works 65, she works Monday to Friday. However, we do catch her checking emails and doing things on the weekends. So she certainly works over that. But she's the one that kind of runs the show, essentially.
And the income for a person like that, approximately?
65,000.
Yeah, 65.
Okay. Sorry, I didn't catch that. Thank you.
No, don't worry. And then everybody else is high 40s and up to high 50s. Mm-hmm. So it's expensive. Payroll is a big chunk.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
But you've got to pay that to have someone, to keep them and to have them feel valued and for them to be able to afford to live.
Now, the company that we have, so we have a virtual assistants, the 2 girls, and that's a separate company. So we don't have to pay payroll or EI or any of those things with that, which is nice.
And would those staff members be licensed?
No, none of our staff is licensed.
No, because license is so expensive. Two of our licensed realtors now did start in an admin role. So both started as the office manager and looked and said, okay, well, if my cap is 65,000 or maybe 70,000, I would like to make more. And then they got their license. They pay their as a full selling agent, they pay their dues and fees. And then, there's no cap, of course, on what you can make.
Any other questions from our group? Going once? Going twice? Let's go to the heart of the matter. That was great. I really appreciated the things they had to say and the way they approached their business. Good lessons for all of us there. Want to remind everybody that the spring 2025 campaign starts on Thursday, April the 3rd. So write that down so you make sure you're there. The other thing we want to remind you of, the things that we've worked on in this campaign, 10 ways to become the dominant force in your marketplace. We want you really going back and look at those materials. We want you watching the videos. We want you really moving your needle so that you're moving forward and getting the things done you need to get done to make your business a business worth having. So for me, thank you to Stone Sisters. Thank all of you for being participants with us. And I hope all of your time was well spent. Doug?
As Ralph said, remember, go back to Kajabi. Remember, the materials are all there. Download those materials. Make yourself some notes. Go through these videos again. There was so much information right now from Tamara and Shannon that we need to be very clear how powerful that information was, and get back to all the sessions that we had, because we had some great guests in this campaign. So over the next 6 weeks, do yourself a favor and go back to every session again. You will definitely get some more pointers that you missed. And with that, again, I thank Tamara and Shannon for giving us their time today. And as busy as they are, we really respect that and appreciate it. And we look forward to seeing them again at a conference in the near future. And with that, I'd like to say that's a wrap.